Hi, and welcome back to AppSecCon 2022. In this panel discussion, we're going to talk about the Purple Book of Software Security. In this panel, we've got Valmiki Mukherjee, who is the chairman and founder of Cyber Future Foundation. We've got Mithun Rajor, who is the global head of application security at S&P Global. And we've got Vandana Verma, who is the security relations leader at SNCC, focused on DevSecOps. Great conversation, a great community-driven project. Let's go ahead and check it out.
Hi, I'm Val Mukherjee. It's a pleasure to be on the AppSecCon in this great community that has been built up in a very fast pace, where also with very meaningful goal and a great impact that it's already started making. I'm joined by Vandana and Mithun, who are going to introduce themselves. I want to kick this off with a quick background and intro for myself, and hope a lot of you can join us and go listen to our story, but also contribute to yours. Each of the panelists here and my colleagues here have got their own stories of their journey and how their contribution worked into the whole Purple Book community, advancing application security, a very important field in cyber overall. So I'm Valmiki Mukherjee, I go by Val. I'm the chairman and founder of Cyber Future Foundation. We convened this a platform for leaders and basically bringing cybersecurity leaders closer and in the front and center with the business and national security leadership. Cybersecurity, as many of you know who have grown up in this particular industry, we're a nascent industry, very tightly knit. We kind of know each other by first names in many cases and the families, but it was very much within ourselves, right? So, several years now, it's 6 years back, I can talk about that. We discussed around a dinner table with Admiral Rogers, with our friend Robert Rodriguez, who probably will hear this event as well, that we need a forum, a convening forum and a platform to bring cybersecurity leaders in front and center of the business discussion. And when we talk about cybersecurity, and as we go through the digital platform and transformation, application and product security comes at the very heart of it. That's where things start. And that is why this community is so important, so powerful, and so impactful. The leaders that you hear today and that you'll hear through the AppSecCon, you'll hear their stories of securing the digital transformation, our digital fabric, and the society that we live in, and how we can do it together. So without further ado, I'd just like to hand it off to my good friend here, Vandana, and let her introduce herself. Many of you know her already, and more will know about her great story. So Vandana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Val. It's an amazing to be here at AppSecCon when it's happening for the first time. And as you rightly mentioned, that Purple Book community has paced up very strongly, especially during the pandemic and the tough times, and we all collaborated and learned from each other. So AppSecCon is one of its kind. We're learning from each other. And I'm so glad to be speaking along with you and Mithun. It's amazing to be here. About me, I'm currently working with a software security company named SNCC. And I'm also on the global board of directors at OWASP, which is Open Web Application Security Project, currently serving as a chair. It's an opportunity to be here and speaking and sharing information about Purple Book community, because the topic itself is all about Purple Book community and how it all started, how we all contributed, and how it actually took shape. So thank you so much, Val, for setting up the stage. And now I'm handing over to Mithun.
And thanks, Vandana. My name is Mithun. I head the application and security program at S&P Global. Would like to extend you to welcome aboard for AppSecCon, which is security by the leaders and for the leaders. It's a great tech platform where all the leaders are collaborating and socializing ideas on cyber. To give a quick note, I'm a passionate developer. I stay abreast with the technology, but these kind of platform ingrains the thought process of how leaders are trying to solve cyber challenges. And specifically this one focusing on application security is something which I'm looking forward to understand, like how the industry is moving towards to and how the leaders have been contributing to that space. With that, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you both for your introduction and background, and I think one of the key topics today is why is a community approach required and why is it important? We could have all just gone back to the Coursera's and the Udemy's and got learned ourselves, but to tee this off, learning from each other and our experiences. Especially when the industry is moving so fast, before it's been documented, our history is being documented live, so as to speak. What are your thoughts around building the community and growing the community that is interested in and contributing to the growth of product security and application security? Vandana, maybe you go first.
Sure. If in a nutshell, I have to say, growing a community, it is very, very important. The most impact factor, if I can say, about my personal growth has been because of the community. When in the initial years of my working, I was just taking care of the office work and a few other stuff. But then as soon as I got introduced to the communities, I realized the power of knowledge and knowledge sharing specifically. And when I talk about Purple Book, there's one impact that it has made, that when we all got together from different parts of the world, talking specifically about why software security matters. It isn't like that we don't have enough content out there. The content is there. We're there. But then how about sharing with each other and sharing stories with each other, use cases, studies, and telling the failures, not just the wins, because we learn from the failures. We don't want to repeat the same mistakes which others have done it. So the community actually talks about that, what not to repeat and what can come next. Because a lot of times we have a limited vision. Whatever we say, we have a way of thinking. But with the power of community, it actually makes us go broad. We can think of new ideas. We can think of new collaborations, and it does not restrict us to the organizations that we are working for. It actually expands us to different organizations, different people, different countries, different geographies. Like right now, we're sitting in different geographies and talking about it. When the Purple Book took the shape, it all started with everyone working together, coming up with different ideas, sharing their stories, and then it started taking shape. The people who were working on ground took a shape. So the power of community is huge. Whatever we say, there are sometimes certain ups and downs, but then it actually only enhances your knowledge and matures you in the way we talk about software security, especially if I talk about Purple Book, because I haven't seen any specific community which talks about, oh, we need DevSecOps in this area. We need to talk about each and every minutest aspects. Now I'll hand it over to Mithun.
Yeah, thanks, Vandana. At least from my perspective, right? Like I think the way I look at it is, trying to blend the people, process, technology acumen. I mean, you might have heard these buzzwords already, but when I first met Nikhil to start this community, he asked me, like, there has to be some extraction point, like where it gives people that force to kind of drive that, oh, I should be part of this community. And what is that? That's what I asked him. So what he told was, like, Mithun, the blend and choice of members that I'm trying to invite to this community are people who are technology focused, who are process focused, and who are people focused, who can bring that acumen of security and blend it in a way that all of these challenges can be resolved. If you want to speak about specific technology, you can, again, like just Val mentioned, there's Udemy's, there's Coursera's and whatnot. However, the practical experience, when you try to stitch all of these information with a practical exposure, with the use cases where we have succeeded, where we have fallen back, and where we have learned lessons, that is where the community gives us that exposure and platform to connect those dots, to tee them up in a way that it helps not only the security professionals, because one of the misconceptions that I want to clear is the community is not purely for security professionals, because I personally believe that the developers are our first line of defense. And it's also for product developers, enterprise architects who kind of ingrain the security thought process, and it's for everyone. So just wanted to give that level set and scale of clarity, and that is the motivation behind this, and that is what attracted me. So when I asked Nikhil, so he said, like, it's not only developers, we have security professionals, we have enterprise architects, we have a tech acumen, and we're trying to kind of blend that with people and process, and that is what it makes special.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. I think what was just said, when we started the Cyber Future Foundation, it was mostly CISOs and then chief security officers, right? That's our community. And we really saw that this was, when Nikhil came up with this idea that we should have something for AppSec and application security, I'm like, perfect timing, because, we can't go deep into every area, and we want to make sure that we use the full power of the knowledge of the community. And, the left shifting of security as it has happened over time and still not there. I think it's a journey, it will be, begins with engineers and developers, right? And with you as the stewards and the guides of taking them on a journey that they can build secure products, secure applications, and that really matters. And I think you mentioned about the practical experiences, which is extremely important, because no two environment is the same, but the learning and the faults could be avoided, right? So absolutely kind of support the community approach that Vandana you mentioned, and the learning from each of these angles. Maybe we pivot to pivot to another angle of looking at this, right? The content that we're covering. I think there are 10 chapters that initially when we started framing this up, the community and all, we could just go anyway. But I think it was very thoughtful to organize this in terms of the basic concepts and the foundation of each of these. Maybe we just talk about that a little bit, like why software security was very important, because all of us understood, right, in this business, but taking this understanding to outside, our friend in the infrastructure side, our friends on the cloud side, the business side, the legal side, I think that needed some thoughtful attention. So Mithun, maybe start with you, like, how do we take the engineering mindset, and which we very well understand, to go to talk to our other stakeholders? Why software security?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, so security is non-functional. It's a non-functional requirement. At least that's how business looks at it. Now, we got to have a mindset to adopt the business processes and inject ourselves into the software development lifecycle. Because that has been like more challenging what it used to be in the past versus what it is right now. And look at the evolution of software, right? Like, we started with physical hardwares, we are into virtualization, and then we are moving into a world where we are writing in serverless and container technology, where it's all predominantly, what we see in the tech stack right now is code. Now, to help understand the infrastructure teams, the legal teams, the COOs, the CIOs, or the CTOs, it takes the risk acumen. So this function should be closely working with the risk to articulate that complete exposure as to what it takes if you don't have security in these processes. So you got to explain the legal, the regulators, the insurers, and whatnot, the acumen of security as to why do we need it, and what are the implications if you don't have a business use case of injecting security within the software development. So if you look at the chapters are steered in that way, because a couple of the chapters talk about, like, metrics and and compliance. Couple of chapters talk about like use cases on DevSecOps. A couple of chapters talk about like the shift left approach. A lot of people talk about shift left approach, but I personally believe that we should start left. Have the non-functional requirement ingested in your agile release trains. People call it as art or PI planning. Bake security in over there to make it not a choice, but a mandate task to ensure that we deliver secure applications. So there's a lot of work it takes for the CISOs to explain the infrastructure world of people, the audit world of people. But I think everyone gets the strategic goal is that security is everyone's responsibility. I mean, and especially cyber. It's cybersecurity, and one of my boss that I used to work for, she always used to preach that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, and I totally believe so. That it's not just cyber team; it also is with each and everyone that works in the organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I think if we extend that, very very basic concept that you said, but it's so profound when it applied to business, right? Maybe we also think about, there's another chapter around culture and organization, right? So I mean in my last 20 years, probably put 200 or so cybersecurity programs with my partners CISOs. We have done at least 140 CISOs that we work with very closely in the Fortune 500 space, and everywhere I have started building programs together for the CISOs. What I've realized is that the culture literally takes the front center stage, like how fast things can go, how far it will move, from the mindset of even shift left, forget about start left, right? I think all this takes some level of cultural, and not actually a lot of level of cultural influence. So Vandana, you are on both sides of the community, I would say, as a practitioner yourself, but also taking the OWASP hat on. How do you infuse that into an organization, the cultural aspect? How do you overcome that? And what can you share with our viewers here?
Sure. Valmiki, actually, you rightly said, when I talk about keeping my hats on and off, it's tough, because when we talk about corporate organizations, there's a way of thinking that we need to start using vendors instead of using the open source of freemiums, which is a way that we have grown up. We've seen it, that it's not secure, or there are other things. But if we talk about open source content that we have on the internet, it's over 80 to 90%, whatever we say. Even my website is totally built on the open source frameworks and the things that we have. So it brings us to the point that we talk about all of this. What we need to do is we need to practice it. But for us to practice it, we need to have enough stories. We need to have enough ideas that, yes, it is fine to use open source. And internally, there are people, like we said, developers are the first line of defense. They are using open source. Anytime there's something which is not working, we go to the internet, download stuff, and start using it. Do we track it? Maybe we don't. We've seen the history. Talk about Equifax hack. Talk about any of the recent issues that are there, especially Log4j. And it is not to talk about any company. It is to talk about the situation. It is to talk about the case that has happened. So it is very, very important to talk about all of these things when we know them for a very, very long time. When that Apache 2.3 version, which was creating havoc for everyone, we're still talking about Log4j or Log4Shell, and we're still trying to track. We don't even know whether our systems are vulnerable or not, or the third parties that we are using that are vulnerable or not. So again, it brings us to the point. You want to use open source? Use it. It is amazing. It is helpful. And whether we deny it or we say it is yes, but we use it very vaguely. And then on top of it, the most important aspect comes is that the communities like these, Purple Book community, like you said, culture, it is very, very important to track down what we have. And culture is not just getting your people happy. It is all about getting the things right. And that's what culture talks about. Even if we stitch up with people, process, and technology. So it actually stitches everything. Even it talks about automation. Culture is very, very wide. And for me to wear both of these hats, it is important when we are speaking at such forums. I'm talking from a perspective where I'm a practitioner, where I use these tools. And at the same time, I preach about OWASP dependency check, which is again an open source tool. But then only those tools can give you the baseline. Further step, you have to take it on your own. You can't say that, oh, I am working on this tool and that's about it. No, you have to take the knowledge. You have to grasp what's out there and what's not out there, which you need to work on. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you understand it, and then many of our friends here are understanding it this because you have seen both sides, right? I think that's very important. So again, you talked about the open source side, which probably our friend here, Alan Friedman, will talk about security bill of materials and why it's so important.
Yeah.
And all of these chapters, like the 10, I remember starting working with Alan probably 8 to 10 years back now. And that was still like, we'd look at a bottle of medicine or food and say, okay, if it's there, then why can't we know what's there in the cybersecurity space? So I'm glad to see that all of that has come so far, and we stand on the shoulders of the giants, but also we work at the speed of these practitioners, Mithun, you and Vandana, that are helping us to accelerate the pace at which you can secure ourselves. I see we're at like 20 minutes. So any thoughts to wrap up this conversation?
No, I think, well, from my perspective, right, like on a short note like this, no silver bullet for cyber. You have a lot of options, you have a lot of compositions, whether it's a tool or platform or whatever. There's no silver bullet. Like you cannot have one bullet knocking out all the problems. It's just the way how you develop that culture, you develop that program, you develop that processes in place, and then you be the enabler to work with the business to promote cyber. I mean, that's at least how I'm looking at it. And there are a lot of use cases that the book talks about, and it instills a lot of content related to tech, content related to practices and process that is being followed. So definitely, I'm not trying to promote anything here, but I would say like, definitely a pre-read or a cursory read, or someone like to, go as detailed as possible for the book and read it. I would definitely encourage the audience to do so.
Thank you, Mithun. And Vandana, your thoughts?
I totally agree with Mithun on this, that if we have to give a little snapshot on what Purple Book is all about, because it's talk about software security to supply chain, to culture, to process, people, technology, governance. It talks about everything. And it gives you the stories from the different worlds, from the different organizations. So do check them out. It is a great resource of knowledge and power. I am sure you'll learn something from it. And if you have a story to share with us, please do drop a note to us as well.
Absolutely great. Oh, thank you both. And thanks to those that have joined or been tuning in. As a business leader, I can tell you we have a tremendous community in the Purple Book. We have tremendous practitioners who know what they're doing. And we need to make sure that that knowledge gets out to the hands of your developers. And it's not that we are telling you what our experiences are, but we are also giving you the resources to make it happen. So thank you both. Thank you all. And hopefully we have a fantastic show with AppSecCon, and also this community grows to the extent that everybody understands. As Mithun probably said, start left. Thank you all.
I preach it. Thanks, Val. Thanks, Vandana.
Thanks, Val. Thanks, Mithun.